When retired Coast Guard Captain Miller came for his morning coffee, he saw Elena's name tag, Rodriguez. That name sounded familiar, from Hurricane Katrina. That morning, he looked closely at Elena. "Are you Petty Officer Rodriguez, rescue swimmer?" Elena stopped. "Were you in New Orleans?" Miller asked. Elena slowly nodded, and two Coast Guard members reunited after 15 years. On the corner of Maple Street, Elena's Café had stood in the same spot for 25 years. Small neighborhood coffee shop, warm lighting, comfortable seating, walls covered with community photos. Elena Rodriguez was 68 years old, arriving every morning at 5 a.m., closing every evening at 8 p.m. Elena was a petite Latina woman, silver-streaked hair usually braided, kind dark eyes, always wearing an apron with the Elena's Café logo. Customers called her Aunt Elena because she treated everyone like family. "Best coffee in the neighborhood," said regular customer Mr. Patterson. "But more than that, Elena makes you feel at home." Morning rush was Elena's favorite time. Between 6:30 to 9 a.m., there was a steady stream of customers, office workers, teachers, nurses, construction crews. Elena knew them all, knew their orders, asked about their lives. "Good morning, Sarah. Usual oat milk latte." "Morning, Miguel. Extra shot today. You look tired." "Doctor Chen, how did the surgery go yesterday?" Elena was efficient, but never rushed. She took a moment with each customer, showed genuine interest, built community connections. The coffee shop was a small business, but it was Elena's pride. She'd come from New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, opened this cafe with her savings. A perfect example of the American dream. "Elena came here with nothing," said neighbor Mrs. Thompson. "Built this place with hard work and love." But on Elena's walls, among the regular photos, hung one different frame. Coast Guard ceremony, young woman in dress uniform, rescue swimmer badge visible. Most customers never noticed. Elena was quiet about her military service. When customers asked for veteran discounts, Elena would give a simple nod. She didn't share details. Until Captain Miller arrived. Tuesday morning, 7:15 a.m. Elena was handling the usual morning rush. Espresso machine humming, customers chatting, peaceful neighborhood atmosphere. Regular customers in their usual spots. Mr. Patterson at the corner table reading his newspaper, college students Jenny and Mike studying, office worker Carlos making phone calls. At 7:20 a.m., a new customer entered. Tall man, mid-60s, silver hair, confident bearing. Military posture unmistakable, straight back, alert eyes, purposeful movement. "Good morning," Elena said, with her usual warm smile. "What can I get you?" "Black coffee, large. And maybe one of those muffins. Blueberry or chocolate chip?" "Blueberry, thank you." Elena poured the coffee, selected a fresh muffin. The customer paid cash, left a generous tip. "I'm Captain Miller," he said, extending his hand. "Retired Coast Guard. Just moved to the neighborhood. Elena Rodriguez. Welcome to the area." Miller noticed Elena's name tag more carefully. Rodriguez. That name, where had he heard it? "You have a lovely cafe. Very welcoming." "Thank you. Hope to see you again." Miller took his coffee to an empty table, but something nagged at him. Rodriguez. Latina. Maybe 40s during Hurricane Katrina. Elena continued serving customers, but noticed Miller watching her thoughtfully. Not unusual. New customers often observe the cafe's atmosphere before becoming regulars. 7:45 a.m. Miller finished his coffee, approached the counter. "Elena, may I ask, have you always lived here?" "No, sir. Came from New Orleans, after Katrina." Miller's heart skipped. New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, Rodriguez. "Were you affected by the hurricane?" Elena's expression grew serious. "Yes, lost everything, but survived." Miller studied Elena's face more carefully. Age right, name right, timeline right. But could it be? "Elena, this might sound strange, but were you ever in the Coast Guard?" Elena stopped wiping the counter, looked at Miller with new attention. "Why do you ask?" "Because your name." "Elena Rodriguez." "From New Orleans." During Katrina, ... Miller paused, memory crystallizing. Were you Petty Officer Rodriguez? Rescue swimmer? Elena set down the towel slowly. 20 years rushed back. Yes. Jesus Christ, Miller whispered. Petty Officer Elena Rodriguez, you saved my son. Elena's eyes widened. Your son? Lieutenant David Miller, helicopter pilot, August 30th, 2005, downtown New Orleans. Memory flooded back. Hurricane Katrina aftermath. Worst natural disaster in U.S. history. Coast Guard rescue operations. Thousands of lives at stake. David Miller, Elena repeated slowly. The pilot whose helicopter went down. You remember? I remember everything about that day. Miller sat down heavily. Other customers were unaware of the conversation's significance. Elena, David's helicopter was hit by debris during a rescue operation. Crashed into a flooded building. You swam into that building to get him out. Elena nodded quietly. He was unconscious, trapped under wreckage, water rising fast. The building was collapsing. Other rescue swimmers said it was a suicide mission. You went anyway. That's the job. So others may live. Miller's eyes filled with tears. David said an angel pulled him from the water. Described a young Latina Coast Guard swimmer who risked everything for a stranger. Elena remembered darkness, rushing water, debris everywhere, building groaning, ready to collapse. Finding the pilot pinned under helicopter debris, water up to his chest. I just did my job, Captain. Your job? Elena, you carried my unconscious son through a collapsing building, swam him to safety through hurricane floodwaters. Medics said 5 more minutes, and he would have drowned. Elena had made multiple trips that day. Lieutenant Miller was just one of dozens rescued during Katrina operations. How is David now? Miller smiled through tears. Captain David Miller, still flying Coast Guard helicopters, married, 2 kids, lives in Virginia. I'm glad he's well. Elena, he talks about you, calls you the guardian angel of New Orleans. Never knew your name, only that a Coast Guard swimmer saved his life. Other customers were beginning to notice the emotional conversation. Elena gestured toward the back office. Captain, perhaps we should continue this privately. Elena's small office behind the café. Desk covered with receipts, supplier invoices, community event flyers. On the wall, a single Coast Guard photo. Young Elena in rescue swimmer gear. Miller stared at the photo. That's you. Long time ago. Elena, why didn't you stay in the Coast Guard? You were one of the best rescue swimmers. Elena sat down, memories painful. Katrina changed me. Saved so many people, but couldn't save everyone. Lost teammates, lost friends. When the hurricane ended, I needed a different life. PTSD? Maybe. Or just tired of water meaning death instead of life. Miller understood. Many first responders struggled after major disasters. So you came here, started the café. Needed something peaceful, something that helps people without drama. Elena gestured toward the café sounds through the door. Customers talking, coffee brewing, normal life. Here, I feed people. Give them a warm place, friendly conversation. Still serving, just safer. Elena, you saved my son's life. How can I thank you? No thanks needed. Just don't tell customers about the Coast Guard. I like being a coffee shop owner. Miller nodded respectfully. Your secret's safe. But their conversation was interrupted by commotion outside. Shouting, running footsteps, someone yelling, "Help!" Elena rushed to the cafe window. The street scene was chaotic. Car accident, overturned vehicle, woman trapped inside, flames starting. "Call 911, someone shouted. Miller looked at Elena. She was staring at the burning car with intense focus. Elena? But Elena was already moving toward the door. Elena, wait, you're not Coast Guard anymore. Elena turned back, eyes blazing with familiar determination. Captain, so others may live, doesn't have an expiration date. Elena ran toward the overturned car, Miller following. A crowd had gathered, but nobody was approaching the vehicle. Flames growing, gasoline smell. Danger obvious. Someone's trapped, a witness shouted. Driver's unconscious, doors jammed. Elena assessed the situation with a professional eye. Overturned sedan, driver's side crushed against pavement, passenger door accessible but blocked by debris, flames from the engine compartment, fuel leak, maybe minutes before explosion. "Everyone back," Elena commanded with authority nobody expected from a coffee shop owner. Miller watched in amazement as Elena transformed from cafe owner to rescue professional. Elena approached the vehicle carefully, checking structural stability, fuel situation, victim condition. The driver, middle-aged woman, unconscious but breathing, seatbelt holding her upside down. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Elena called through the broken window. No response. The woman was bleeding from a head wound, possibly concussed. Elena tried the passenger door. Jammed tight. Windows too small for extraction. Only way in. Driver's side window. But that required crawling under the unstable vehicle. The crowd was growing. Fire department sirens distant. But flames were spreading. Time was critical. "Elena, the fire department's coming," Miller called. "Wait for professionals." Elena turned back. "Captain, I am a professional." Elena lay on the pavement, crawled under the vehicle toward the driver's side. Broken glass, jagged metal, gasoline fumes. Just like Katrina. Tight spaces, rising danger, life at stake. "Ma'am, I'm here to help. Coast Guard rescue swimmer." The woman stirred slightly. "Can't move." "I know. Going to get you out. Trust me." Elena worked methodically, checked the woman for injuries, tested the seatbelt mechanism, planned the extraction route. Muscle memory from hundreds of rescue operations. Flames were growing closer. The vehicle shifted slightly on its unstable position. Elena found the seatbelt release, supported the woman's weight, guided her through the window opening. Careful not to aggravate potential spinal injuries. "Got her," Elena called to Miller. Together, they carried the unconscious woman to safety, just as the fire department arrived. EMTs took over medical care. The fire crew dealt with the vehicle. Elena stood watching, adrenaline fading. Miller approached her, expression awestruck. "Elena, that was incredible. Just instinct. Couldn't watch someone die. You haven't lost it. 20 years later, still a rescue swimmer." Elena looked at her hands. Scraped, bloody, but steady. "Guess some things don't change." Within hours, Elena's street rescue was neighborhood news. Witnesses posted videos. Local news picked up the story. The Coast Guard contacted Elena. Coffee shop owner saves car crash victim. Retired Coast Guard. Hero lives quietly in neighborhood. From Hurricane Katrina to street rescue. Elena tried returning to her normal cafe routine, but customers looked at her differently. "Elena, I had no idea you were a hero. Thank you for your service. Can you teach my daughter about courage?" Elena appreciated the respect, but felt uncomfortable with the attention. The next morning, a special visitor arrived. A young man in Coast Guard uniform, captain's bars visible. "Ms. Rodriguez?" Elena looked up from coffee preparation. "Yes?" "Captain David Miller. I believe you saved my life." Elena's heart stopped. The pilot from Katrina, no longer a young lieutenant, but a confident officer, father, leader. "David." "Yes, ma'am. Dad called last night. Said he found my guardian angel." Captain Miller looked exactly like his father. Same bearing, same eyes, same grateful expression. "I've wanted to thank you for 20 years." Elena came around the counter, studied David's face. "You look good, healthy." "Thanks to you." David pulled out a small wrapped package. "This belongs to you." Elena opened it. Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer Medal, engraved, "To Elena Rodriguez, so others may live," from the Miller family. "David, this is too much. Ma'am, you gave me my life back. 20 years of marriage, 2 kids, thousands of rescues, all because you risked everything for a stranger." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "You would have done the same for me." "Maybe. But you actually did it." Word spread in the Coast Guard community. Rescue swimmers, active and retired, started visiting Elena's Café. Military families brought children to meet a real hero. Elena found herself sharing stories she'd kept buried for decades. Ms. Rodriguez, a young Coast Guard recruit, asked, "What's it like being a rescue swimmer?" Elena considered while making a cappuccino. "Hardest job I ever loved. Every rescue is personal. Someone's family member, someone's future. You carry that responsibility. Were you scared? Always. Fear keeps you sharp, makes you careful. But you can't let fear stop you from helping. More young service members visited. Elena's Café became an unofficial mentoring spot for military personnel. How do you transition from military to civilian life? A Marine veteran asked. Elena gestured around the café. Find a way to keep serving. Military taught us to put others first. That doesn't end with discharge. It just changes form. But a coffee shop seems so normal after rescue swimming. Elena smiled. Son, every morning I serve coffee to police officers, firefighters, teachers, nurses. They serve the community, I serve them. The chain of service continues. The young soldier nodded thoughtfully. Never thought of it that way. Military gives you skills, perspective, commitment to service. The key is finding civilian application. Captain Miller Sr. became a regular customer, bringing other veterans. Elena's Café evolved into a community gathering place for service members. 6 months later, Coast Guard headquarters contacted Elena for a special ceremony. The Coast Guard Foundation wanted to honor her civilian service following her military career. Ms. Rodriguez, you exemplify Coast Guard values in civilian life. We'd like to present a Community Service Award. Elena initially declined. I just make coffee. But Captain Miller convinced her. Elena, other veterans need to see your example. The award ceremony was held at the local community center. Packed audience, Coast Guard personnel, cafe customers, neighborhood families, fellow business owners. Elena wore a simple dress, the Coast Guard pin David had given her. Uncomfortable at the podium, but determined to honor the invitation. I wasn't planning to speak, Elena began, but Captain Miller says words matter. She looked out at the audience, veterans seeking purpose, customers who'd become family, young service members needing guidance. People ask about the connection between Coast Guard rescue swimming and coffee shop ownership. They seem unrelated. They're not, Elena paused, gathering her thoughts. In the Coast Guard, my job was saving people from drowning. Here, my job is giving people safe harbor from life's storms. Different methods, same mission, helping others survive. She looked at the veterans in the audience. For service members transitioning to civilian life, your skills translate. Courage, commitment, service to others. These are needed everywhere. Elena held up her rescue swimmer badge. This badge represents so others may live. That mission doesn't end with retirement. It just finds new expression. A young veteran asked, "What's your advice for finding purpose after service?" Elena smiled. Find your café. Find a way to serve others that uses your heart and skills. Might be business, might be teaching, might be volunteering. Purpose isn't in the title, it's in the service. 1 year later, Elena's Café remained a neighborhood cornerstone. Elena, now 69, still opened at 5 a.m., still treated every customer like family. But the café had evolved. Military family meetup spot, veteran job placement network, community emergency coordination center. During a winter storm, Elena kept the café open 24 hours, providing warmth and food for stranded residents. So, others may live, the fire captain told Elena. Your motto applies here, too. Elena smiled, serving hot coffee to emergency responders. A young Coast Guard recruit approached the counter. Ms. Rodriguez, I start rescue swimmer training next month. Any advice? Elena handed her coffee, refused payment. Remember why you're doing this. Not for medals, not for recognition. For people who can't save themselves. That motivation will carry you through the toughest training. What about after the Coast Guard? How do I keep serving? Elena gestured around the bustling café, diverse crowd of customers, community she'd served for 25 years. Find your harbor swimmer. Find a way to keep saving lives, whatever form that takes. Coffee shop sounds surrounded them. Conversations, laughter, community connections being made over simple cups of coffee. Elena Rodriguez, Coast Guard rescue swimmer veteran, community servant, still answering the call to save lives. Same mission, different waters. So others may live.